in the Diocese of San Diego. He has extensive experience, of course, in the areas of uh, philosophy and theology and social work, and he has a doctorate in human development. He has an A+ in charisma, and if you know, he loves to pull out his cuatro and just enliven the place up. So we're very blessed to have Ricardo with us this morning, and again, to journey along with all of you who in a sense are serving and of giving of your time, of your talent, and of your service to our diocese, to our parishes, and so many different roles that you occupy. And so we're just eternally grateful for everything that you've done to maintain the ministries that you're overseeing, that perhaps you're leading, and with just overall the grace that you have done this so beautifully over the last year. So we wanted to give and provide you a space so that you can come and just focus on this beautiful topic of the spirituality and the emotions. And so with that, I will turn it over to Ricardo. Good morning, Ricardo, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and new faces too. And I feel really honored to be invited. I told them that you're taking a risk to invite me, but thank you for taking that risk. And at the same time, I should say that when I provide this type of service, at the same time, looking at you, being aware of all what you're doing is really a nurture for my hope. And there's a lot of people like you during these days that you can see that we're trying, we're working, we're looking for information, we want to grow, we want to respond to our faith, we want to take the challenge of this time. And as a church, as a group of human beings that we're trying to follow the message of Jesus, that brings me a lot of hope in my life. So I will start with a moment of prayer. And it's a way to align ourselves, to get in tune, to connect to each other. And at the same time, I used to say that when we pray, we are not connecting God. We are just becoming aware that we already live with Him. So I'm going to pray, and I invite you to follow this music and get in touch and get in tune with the message. Well, to start talking about this theme, how to deal with emotions and how to take care of ourselves, I think this moment is very appropriate because this was a very intensive, emotional moment for our Lord Jesus. And here we have some kind of a clues from the spiritual perspective to deal what we're going to talk about today. Stay with him, remain in him, and watch and pray. I think here is the basic treasure that I would like to share with you today. So let's go to the slides here. Okay. Good. So I want to put this in full screen. So let's see if I can do this.
Ricardo, on the bottom of the orange banner, the fourth icon,
Mhm.
right before on the right,
Yeah.
a little
because
more.
I want to, okay. Yeah, because
There you go.
it was closed. So can you see the whole screen right here, right?
Not yet,
Not
but
the full screen. No, that's all right. Okay, so one of the important things is how to deal with frustration. That's creates a lot. That's part of the topic. Do not get angry with frustration here. So, okay. So I think before we start, not only have a moment of prayer or alignment or awareness, and it's also an invitation for you. What are you looking for today? What is in your heart that you want to find a response, or you want to reflect about, or you want to pray about? So I invite you to be more proactive, trying to tune on your radar to find out what are you looking for, what I want today around these things. The other thing that I want to us to be aware that when we get into the human system, when we get into explore our inner world, I just want to be aware that we getting into sacred territories. We are facing a mystery, and it's not just emotion. It's not just uh, neurochemical reaction. It's not specific things. Such a complexity that we want to explore. And I want you to be aware that it's not a recipe. It's not that just do 1, 2, and 3. It could sound like that, but the intention is to provide awareness, provide information in something that I do believe is an ongoing process in our life. It's a lifelong project to grow as a human being, to grow as a person, and to be at the end what we are called to be, image and of God. But be aware that we're getting into very complex territories. So it's not a dualistic mind. It's not either or. It's both and. It's a complexity. There's a lot of things to be aware and to take care. So I invite you to be open to explore this, Mr. with humbleness and admiration. And be aware that we are an extension of the universe itself. In physical terms, when we say we are image and likeness of God, we can talk that we are holograms, meaning that in us, there is the whole universe, the whole creation we are a hologram of that love that the Creator expands in the universe. So when I become aware of that, it's really a wonderful and amazing experience that I am a hologram of the universe. It's like in a little drop of water of the ocean, the whole components of the ocean are present in that little drop. The same as a human beings when we think about us. And we are aware that we're living a serious crisis. It has been said that the more complex is a system, the more vulnerable is that system. And the virus was a wonderful example. The whole complexity of the world was moved, was challenged by this little tiny virus. And that we are living that crisis right now. And crisis is something that when routines have stopped, when things that we're accustomed to do suddenly stop, and that creates like a earthquake. But at the same time, when we face a crisis, it's also awareness, it's also a guide, what we need to choose in that situation. So sometimes crisis is like the word in Greek reminds is related to the fire, the art of making metals, purifying metals. Krenane means that you put into the fire and that process purifies and you get the metal. So crisis is an opportunity to get rid of certain things, to go to the fundamentals, to go to the basic question. And I think this crisis has helped us to think more deeply and to think what is important and what is accidental. And also a good reminder that in Chinese, it has been said that the word crisis means danger. There's dangers and there's also possibilities. So being aware that this moment is difficult, but it also opens possibility to grow. And I think we are part of that search. And what do I want to share with you? I just want to give you some information about the brain and become aware of an instrument and especially related to our emotions and how to deal with them more consciously. So my goal is to share some information that help us to become more aware who we are, how do we function, so we have more alternatives to use our instruments, to become the director of this orchestra, of this beautiful gift that we have received. That's my intention. And also to empower you to feel that with the grace, with openness, but also willing to grow, things can happen and things can be better in our life. So that's part of my goal. And this have to do with the main goal here. These are the times when we are invited to go within, that we're invited to look inwards, to be with us, to love us, to be compassionate to us, to embrace who we are, and accept it, because acceptance is the beginning of the transformation. If we don't face things, if we hide things, that creates more pressures, and sometimes that can explode. So my invitation is to get consciously into this path of inner exploration and inward exploration. And Carl Jung helped us to understand is that your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awake. So that's a wonderful way to put it, to face what we're living, and to look inside, to wake up sometimes. And now we're going to get into the brain information. And I want to bring to your awareness, because sometimes we don't think about these things, that if you put in a model of 24 hours clock, the evolution process that takes 15 billion years, the last minute is the appearance of consciousness, the appearance of the human being, the appearance of a species that can be reflective, know that we're knowing. That's a phenomena that only appears in us, humans. So just to say that our brain is new, it's really a new feature in our evolution. So just to be aware that we are just starting the process of what can happen with our brain development and what can happen in our evolutionary process, just to be aware of that. And also become aware that we're living a different paradigm. Paradigm is a way to look at reality. And it's interesting that nowadays we are familiar with the energy. We talk about energies, but before the way to see the universe was more like a blocks of matter, like a big clock. And Einstein changed this perspective of the world. And now we talk about energies. And this is important because our brain is the great processor of electromagnetic energy. So just to be aware that we all time processing information, waves of information that are coming through the eyes, sounds through the ears, and our beautiful instrument, the brain, is processing all these things. The other information that I want you to become aware that people have been involved in this research, that we were thinking about the brain as a unit. And these people, Roger Sperry and Paul MacLean, Roger Sperry is the one that is in the center. He was Nobel Prize of Neurophysiology, and he helps to understand the right brain. And Paul MacLean, the one that is in my right with the brain in his hand, was the one that formulated the hypothesis and the theory that our brain shows the signs of the evolution itself. That's why he talks about the reptilian or basic brain. It's very new, it's the basic brain. And then the mammalian brain is the limbic system, which is in the middle, and the neocortex is the last evolutionary structure of the brain. So in us, we have the signs of these millions of years of evolution within us. And they study how this structure functions. And that's what I think is going to be useful for us to be aware. And I will try to share you in simple terms so we can use it in practical ways in our life. Here's some information about the brain that you're familiar with, but it's interesting that two things. from this talk on, you upgrade, meaning that if you think that you came to this conference with one brain, one of the benefits of this talk is that now you're aware that you have three at least. And so you are upgraded in your life today. So that's the first benefit without cost. Just be aware that your instrument is bigger than you thought. So be aware that we have 100 billion neurons, and the amount of synapses, connections around the cell are infinite. So the possibilities of the brain, we don't know yet all the potential that we have there. And here is more specific. So sorry that it's in Spanish in the left side. So the neocortex, the limbic, and the reptilian brain. And we're going to go through all these structures to understand how we can consciously use this. And here is the neocortex. Basically, we have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And of course, this is a very simple way to express it, but it has to do with some neurological functions. The left brain normally is the brain that is more, I would say, active. When we do some linear type of thought, sequential logic, is the brain that we use to see the parts. It's like the zoom, when you go see what are the specific things, what are the causes and effects. So it goes from the globalities to the specific thing. So saying this, be aware that we exercise this function, and normally our education systems has been more emphasizing this type of functions, names, sequence, orders, whatever, more rational type of thing. And the right hemisphere is related to more imaginations, associations, visualization, generalizations. Is more connected. So here is the first tip. Be aware that you have this type of possibilities and instruments to be specific or to imagine, to go to the point or to go to the whole. And you can practice this right now if you want it in your place. I mean, you can see where you are and trying to look what is missing, what do you like, what specific things are in your room, and you can make a more analytical type of thing. But now focus and shift to the other possibilities, trying to see what you like, what are the things that you can be connected, or what is your imagination about this room, whatever. So become aware that this function can be not control, I don't like that word, but can be addressed. You can decide what type of hemisphere you consciously are using. And for human relations, this is so important because we create habits and we can revise what is my normal tendency, what is my habit. And sometimes we realize that we are more left brain addict, I would say. And in a relationship, we tend to see what is missing, what is not good, what is the detail. And when we use the right hemisphere, we have the chance to associate, to make connections. And I can put you in a concrete example. For example, you can see a person that you don't like his or her face, but that person probably has beautiful earrings or a tie that you like it. So you can make a brain decision where you're going to put your attention, because if you focus more in the critical system, you start to move away from that reality. But if you use your appreciative system, you start to make connections and you approach to that person. So this is key also in relationship, in our families and with our friends. I mean, of course, we can be aware what is missing, some critical aspects. But if we change, we can also use the associative quality of our brain to connect, to create commonalities. And the other use, and I will joke with him with this, if you're planning to go to Hawaii, for example, or to make a wonderful trip to Tibet or whatever, the left brain function is the one that has to make numbers, accounts, calendars, places to go, miles between one place and another. It's more the analytical. The right brain hemisphere is just dreams with pictures, with possibilities, with new moments. So it gives you air, it gives you hope. I will say that the right hemisphere is the hemisphere of hope, because it helps you to look beyond the exact things or the reality. So this balance, this combination is so important to be aware and to work consciously to create a balance. And the problem is if you are more right hemisphere, you can be a very idealistic person. So you need a balance with your left hemisphere. So it's a matter of balance, but use both. And in case you want to make a trip and you don't have the money, you just close your eyes and you go there, and your body will have the same sensation as you physically were present and without cost. So that's the power of the imagination. So that's a gift to use that power. And I used to put a metaphor. I mean, with these two brains, you make the decision to be a fly sometimes or to be a bee. Fly goes always to what is missing, the garbage. We can be a fly. But I invite you also to be a bee. Look for what is there, what is present in the moment that can nurture you, that can be life for you. So I invite you, be a bee in the garden of God. Yeah. And the next brain, which is the one that we want to put more attention today, is the limbic brain. I used to say that if we use metaphor, I would say that the left brain is like the wood. The right brain is like the air. The limbic brain is the fire. And the reptilian brain is like the chimney. Those are some metaphors that help me to understand the roles of these different brains. So this brain is so important because it's the place of all the neurochemicals that have to do with emotions, and is related to different, I would say, joking, that the limbic system connections are through our holes. All the holes, our body, all the holes, you know, the ear, the mouth, the nose, the sexual holes, all are connected with this limbic system. The source of pain, the source of pleasure are here. The memory, the emotional memory. This is very important because when we have experiences in our life, these chemicals create like circuits, and that information remains there. It's the long-term memory and the hippocampus. And what happened in traumas or in ecstasies is that in life, when we have some moments that remains our trauma or our ecstasy, right away, this system, these pathways get reactivated. So an emotional reactivated. And that makes me think when we are in the Mass, in the Sunday Mass, after the consecration, I heard from the priest, do this in memory of me. It's not memory, it's not just the remember, the intellectual remember of this type of memory we're talking about in this system and this limbic system. It's the emotional memory. So when we hear the words, do this in memory of me, is a way to connect with the love that in that moment Jesus was expressing to their disciples and to us. So this is the limbic brain, and we will go back to this brain more specific, but let me finish the other brain, which is the basic and reptilian brain. And this brain in particular has to do with all the habits, values, traditions, rhythm of life. So it's a very basic thing. And as I told you, I think for me, the metaphor is like, this is the chimney. This is the patterns of my love that helps to keep the fire in a good stand. And if you have a small chimney, meaning a lot of values, belief systems that are very rigid, that fire is not going to last there. But if you expand your values, your belief system, the way to be in the world, that fire can be there. But without chimney, the fire can burn everybody. And if you put air, imagination into the fire, that's very, I would say, is the burnout for us and for people around us. So the combination of these three elements, the rational, the imagination, the emotional, and the patterns, the behavioral patterns, are a wonderful map to understand how we operate at this level. And another thing that I enjoy thinking about this triune brain is, in a certain way, is the Trinity. It's an expression of the Trinity within us, you know. So I like to make this type of connection. And let's go to the limbic brain, to the emotion. And I like this quote of Carl Jung again. Emotion is the chief source of all becoming conscious. There can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotion. So I know we live in a very special moment of strong emotion. But these moments are given us to face that emotion, to embrace that emotion, to explore that emotion. And that will help us to grow and keep up alive. And no matter, because when we're talking about emotion, we are not doing moralistic qualifications, good emotion or bad emotion. Emotions are treasures. And I will explain to you that the emotion is like an iceberg. There is a piece of the emotion that is visible, anger or sadness, for example. And we will see that behind that expression, there's normally frustration. But the beauty of this is that if you go deep and explore, there is a wanting, a desire there. So when you have a yearning, a wanting, a desire, and there is a frustration that you can't get what you're looking for, then there is expression of that emotion. So learning to explore our emotion can help us to go to what do I want in my life? What is important in my life? And it gives you some path to work and to grow. So that's why emotions are so important to go into light, as Jung tells us. And here is another model to express how do we deal with emotion and what happened in this emotional territory. And it shows you that normally we are called to love. We're called to harmony in life. But when frustrations appears, this blocks appears, normally human beings tend to go to the anger side, to the violent side as a response to that frustration, or we go more to sadness, depression, and illness. So for me, this map has been useful because when I am facing a frustration, now I am more aware, where do I want to go? Or what is my normal response to frustration? And it will help you to recognize what is your pattern. And I have seen people and myself that we have a pattern in front of frustration. We can go to anger and violence, or we go to sadness and depression. That's basically two things. And as we will see, we will have the option to, in a couple of seconds, if we train, if we are becoming aware, to make a decision. Where are we going to go? Are we going to just react? Or are we going to explore, as I mentioned, what is behind it? What is the blockage here? And what is my journey? What do I want? And instead of stay in the expression of the emotion, we can start to explore gently with compassion in our own rhythm. There's no rush, but at least if we have the aware, we can go deep and explore, what do I want? And that's a way to practice love yourself. Be compassionate to yourself, be understanding of yourself in order to deal with this emotion, and don't let the emotion guide your behavior in this case. And that is part of the emotional intelligence. So we're talking about a huge field that has been developed recently, how to understand our emotions, how to perceive our emotions, how to use our emotions, and how to cope with our emotions. So this is a wonderful field to be aware and consciously work on it. And the intelligence developed is basically recognizing and assuming my own emotion and using the words of I feel instead of you make me feel. That's a big change, because normally we tend to judge the others to create the reaction in us, and it's different. I react. I make a decision to react of what you're saying or you're telling me. So when I express my emotion, it's better to use I messages instead of you messages. And that will help really to create a dialogue or communication. And as I said, exploring the desires and frustration that generate them and learning to express them in a safe space. And we will see some concrete exercise to do this. And as I mentioned before, there is a space where we can choose our response. And it has to do with practice and awareness and trying not to be automatic in our response. That's our first response, and it's natural. But now that we're becoming aware of this new information, our brain is registering that it's not automatic response. There is some kind of automatic tendency, but now I can wait and say, where am I going to go? Should I go just for the reactive path, or should I go to the explorative path? And in general, I can say that there are emotions that I can call contracting emotions. Here are some of those emotions that you're familiar with: fear, anger, aggression, sadness, anxiety. But there are also expanded emotions like joy, humor, love, happiness. So the idea here is not to, I know that normally our emotional vocabulary is very poor. So we want to expand the way we express our emotion. But the idea here is to recognize physically that there are some emotional states that contract us, and there are also emotional states that open us. Be aware of that. And one of the things that I have been also learning is that I can create like a quantum field in physical terms. We can also talk in theological terms. I can create a context of compassion, love, and grace if I prepare myself. For example, when I was a chaplain in the hospital, when I went to visit patients, I prepare myself. I invite the Holy Spirit to expand my heart. I become aware that I am an instrument of love. And that's also affect my body. That also has an effect in the way I look at people. That also affect the way I walk. I mean, it's amazing when these things happens and you ask the grace and you prepare your instrument to visit the person, for example, to do whatever you want to do. And sometimes the people feel that something special get into the room. And I think that is a grace, but also a way to prepare our field when we go to meetings or when we go to do any specific activity. What type of energy I bring to the place and work on that. The paradox, though, and I also want to share that sometimes doing this type of job, for example, being a chaplain, sometimes I didn't feel well. I was sad, but I offer that sadness. I say, God, use me as an instrument. I'm not feeling well today. And it happens sometimes that they were the best visits because I felt that I was not under control and I let God be in control. So these are the type of paradox sometimes that we felt in this emotional field. And here's just for your information, every emotion has the purpose. And emotions are like sign of awareness, are invitations to look inward, are moments to explore what's going on with me. So don't be afraid about emotion, to be anger or depression. Don't judge them, trying to find what is the message? What do I have to learn? It's not why this is happening, it's more why for? What is the benefit? What is the gift of the emotions that we're feeling? And I do believe that if we face the emotion with this attitude, emotions can be a grace. And remember, emotions have their own time. Don't push the resolved emotion right away. And also dealing with your emotion and dealing with other people's emotion, don't rush. And sometimes, we face people, I'm crying, I'm sad, well, come on, move on. This day is gonna pass, don't stay there. I mean, this type of response are not empathetic. We want to be and walk and accompany this emotion. And let's go specific to the anger. And here is a design there, what I was talking about. The anger is the manifestation of this explosion. But there is a lot of things behind that anger that we are invited to explore. And it is important that my reactions have to do with my own story. So behind every reaction, there is a personal story. So every emotion is specific, related to my life, to my experiences. And that's why it's so hard to judge other people's emotion, because we don't know what is behind that expression. And sometimes when you see people in the streets or in other places sharing anger, and the question is, what was the frustration in their life? What was the void in their life? What was the lack of love there? and we become more compassionate. And be aware that when you are interacting to other people and they are expressing anger, that anger doesn't belong to you. That anger comes from his or her frustration. And normally we throw anger to the people that is close to us. So becoming aware that that's not my anger. And that anger probably tricks something in you. And that's the part that we have to explore. Why this expression are triggering this in my life? It's an invitation to explore, but that's not my anger. So sometimes I physically, when I interacting with some people that is very angry, I just put my hand close to my heart or to my belly. And for me, it's a way to protect. And sometimes I joke, say, well, we have to practice the, the ole attitude. I mean, this is not me. I mean, this is ole. Don't face that anger, because then you're going to get into a power struggle. So becoming aware is something that has helped me to deal with anger and find out how to drain your anger without being destructive. Sometimes people are very angry. It's good to do exercise, to go to the mountain, to get into the swimming pool and yell, and nobody's going to listen to you, but it's a way to get out with that tension, or go to the restroom, yell at the water clock and flush down. I mean, things that you can do just to move the energy and don't keep it inside of you. And we know the consequence of anger in our body. It affects our immune system, or it can affect our muscles. And there are a lot of connections. And that's the field of psychoneuroimmunology. I mean, the connection between mind and body and soul connection. That unfortunately medicine doesn't take care of this. There are people that have done studies on cancer sometimes, that the accumulation of anger during many years is related sometimes of modification of the cells and is related to some illness. So it's true. I mean, first your emotions get sick, and then the body manifests that emotional imbalance. So just to be aware, if we want to heal ourselves, we also have to work with our emotion and heal our emotion. And here's some concrete exercises. I already mentioned that. When you are interacting with a person who is angry, you can have kind of an inner voice. I'm fine. I'm not the target of the rage. And internally repeat, he's hurt or she's hurt and wants something. And trying to see if you can identify what is the wanting of this person and go there instead of keeping in the reaction. That's some tricks that, of course, require practice and patience to progress. And one little trick, because although our brain is so complex, it also works with the information that we provide. So we can provide an information when we are in rage or in anger to say, I can't do that. I can't change. I can react another way. Move your body to a safe place to relieve the tension. When you know and you notice that you're going to explode, trying to be aware, say, stop. Let me stop here. We can talk later on. Let's take a time out, because if you don't do that and you don't move your place, your body to another place, you can get into violence. And give yourself a break or time to identify what is bothering you. That's where the silent and retire take place. And take responsibility for your feeling without blaming. Just become an observer of your emotion to learn about that and transform what is possible. And I mentioned, find a place where you can express safely your anger. In some places, they use some kind of this plastic guy that you can hit on them. It goes back and forth. And trying to heal, looking for what do you want and how are you going to get there? What things are you going to give you in order to heal your anger? How are you going to love yourself? So these are some of the tips and exercise, very simple to do and very convenient to practice. Now let's go to depression. Now the other side of the reaction. Remember that in front of frustration, we go to the aggressive path or depressive path. And we know that depression affects the whole body and have different causes and leave our body without energy. So we feel depressed, is that we feel that we are connected. I can, and nobody can. So it's a very powerless position. And what to do with sadness? Some little tricks, some little practices that you can incorporate in your life. Find something that makes you feel better. And this is, I used to talk about the matches of your limbic brain, because when you're depressed, your emotional brain is kind of depleted. The fire is down. So find in your life, and I invite you to do this exercise later, like 5 things that can ignite yourself. Those are the matches for your emotional brain that needs energy, that needs fire. And what happens in general when there is this, we don't produce this natural fire, here's when the drugs comes in. And people that are studying the reality of drugs say drugs are the when there is empty fire, artificial drugs trying to put fire in our system, but the problem is that they don't last as our own chemical, so they have to be put it again and again and again, and that's create an addiction, an external dependency of something that can be produced from within. Dopamine, endorphins can be produced from us if we do things that really ignite us. So trying to find something that really brings fire, read a book, go places, go to the park, do exercise, breath, and be compassionate with yourself. And don't expect others to guess. We have to share our pain, open our heart. It's amazing. When we open our heart, we create a context of trust. Our souls come out and we can heal and we can support. And that's the role of the community and the friends, especially. I used to say that if we don't have money enough to psychotherapy, we have to have friends, because that's the only way to survive in our emotional struggles. And again, move, exercise, healthy routine, and move from I cannot to yes, I can, or I'm willing to. Sometimes we don't have the strength to move on, but I'm willing to, I'm open. And these are the type of messages that helps us to move the energy. And the other way, the energy will keep stagnant there. And from the spiritual perspective, when we're facing this very powerful emotion, anger, sadness, anxiety, depression, there are some healing paths that are common in our tradition. And trying to find moments of silence, meditation, centering prayer, because silence is a way to be with you. And when you are with you, be prepared. Because sometimes when we are very distracted in the outer world, we don't listen to our inner voice, to our consciousness. And that's the place, according to St. Augustine, and in our own experience, where you listen the word of the Spirit, the true self words in silence. And silence is not simple. It has moments of consolation, but also desolation, but it invites you to embrace yourself, to accept yourself in front of a loving creature, which is God. Silence and centering prayer is the lover's prayer. You don't have to say too many words. You say, I love you, Lord. I'm here, and I know that you love me. And that experience in silence is healing. And the more we do it, the more we experience the healing power of the love of God. And at the end, this type of silence, meditation, other ways, centering prayer, at the end, it helps us to accept ourselves, to embrace ourselves as we are. And that's key for our healing and our personal spiritual growth process. And at the end is surrender. You know, I'm here as I am, and I don't control everything. And I know you love me. I know you love me. Although I don't feel it, I know it. And that's faith. That's the surrender of faith. So these are one of the important pathways to deal with difficult emotion and not to take care of yourself. Friends, family, nurturing groups of the community. This is so important. This is not a solitary journey. We are here together. And when we talk about church, we talk about people that we are motivated for our same faith and the same messages of love that invite to support each other. So find friends, family, community. I mean, the tendency where we are depressed is to isolate ourselves. So invitation is trying to do a little step to find connection, to share what is going on. And that's very important. And the other piece of this healing pathway is service. I mean, when we serve to others, we make sense of our life. And sometimes when we do service, we get exhausted. But at the end, I don't know, we feel so happy because we receive a feedback of gratitude. We receive a feedback that is telling us, you know, thanks for your life, thanks for what you're doing, thanks for bringing hope, thanks for bringing your love, thanks for your kindness and gentleness. And so this established a cycle of life in our life. And I want to remember this art that is related to what we're talking about. Is the art of repairing broken pottery in Japanese. And what I like here is that we don't have to hide our brokenness. We don't have to hide our emotions. And when we accept in our life, we repair this brokenness, these fractures, with the grace of love, with the healing powers of the community and friends. So we put gold in our fractures. We put gold in our brokenness. And at the end, as you see, our life is as it is. We don't have to hide anything. And it's beautiful as it is, with my own brokenness, with my own weakness, with our own difficulties in life. So I know this is a process. I know this is a long journey, but with this information, we have like a map. We have like possibilities that is in our hands to integrate it and to make it real. And I want to remember, close, some quotes that has been inspired from me. Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. Transformation becomes from within. Don't expect others to change. It's how I deal and how I change that I can invite other people to make changes in their life. And that's hard. That changed the emphasis. And the message that is always repeated, not only in the Old Testament, but after resurrection, the main message is, do not fear. I'm here with you. You're not alone. So I am with you. Do not be afraid in the middle of this emotional tsunami. I will help you. I will hold you. You're not alone. And the message after resurrection was peace. I leave you my peace. I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let them be afraid. So reading the scriptures, be participant of the liturgy, doing services is a constant way, it's the repetition that can help us to become mystics, because tasting all these little things in our life provides the strength to face difficulty, provides another attitude, and there could be despair sometimes, but at the end, we know that we are not alone. We know that we're loved, and we ask the grace for that. And here are some resources that I recommend if you want to read some literature that, at least for me, has been very helpful. More theoretical, the Emotional Intelligence book, which is very popular. Many of the information that I'm sharing with you have been taken from this book that is called The Three Phases of Mind. Elaine de Beauport was my mentor. I had workshop and seminar with her during a year in Venezuela and Caracas. Great information there. Many exercises that you can to be familiarized with this triune brain model. And I recently read the book of Henry Nouwen, Can You Drink the Cup? And it's beautiful, all the sequence that he proposed. What is in my cup? How to accept my life as it is. Live your cup, celebrate who you are with the community, and then drink your cup, accept your life and drink it. So it's a beautiful book to read during this time of Lent. And the other one is the Inner Voice of Love, A Journey Through Anguish. And another resource are for prayer, daily prayer. I used to visit Sacred Space. If you want just to read things, prayer as you go is very helpful. It gives you poetry, music, meditation, very good resources to keep your spiritual life active, to nurture every day your soul, your body, the things that we need to face complex reality with different attitudes. And then you use Deuter music is wonderful to relax, to do meditation by your own. There's another website that is guided meditation for mind. There are a lot of resources in internet that you can find. These are some of them. And also, you can also, look for some movies like Inside Out, Wonder, etc. So, well, this is what I have to share with you today. So glad that I have this opportunity. And now, Marioli, it's in your hands, the next step. So thank you very much.
Okay, everyone. Actually, Marioli had to step away for a moment. She got the phone call from downstairs, but she's already prepped us for us to break up into our small groups. So in a moment, you'll be prompted on your screen to join your small group. And then we'll be broadcasting the questions that Ricardo has given us for reflection. Okay, and then we'll join back at the end. All right, one moment, please. No, I think she put us not in a group. Oh. I'm sorry, boss. Let me just post the. You said we don't want to invade your privacy, but we'll be witnesses to you. So did you want to just broadcast all the questions at the same time?
Or maybe 2 by 2.
Wait for
You guys don't have access to this? Because it's when you are the host, not remember for breakout group, only the host. Okay. Why is Tammy still? Is she not in a group yet? Probably she come up because she was coming in and out. People, I think that the lady and all those came late, so probably that's why. Okay.
Rosa joined us, later. We decided that we would go the route, and it was perfect segue, Ricardo, with when you get frustrated, what do you do? Because we didn't have the questions. And we sat there looking at each other. And so we finally, I think that's part of recognizing, okay, what choice are we going to make here? Are we going to sit here in silence and look at each other? So we just decided to start introducing ourselves and then talking about our impressions or what we learned from the presentation. And I think I can speak for all of us, but for myself particularly, it was very enlightening. I took away some, I took pictures of the screens of some of the points, but one of them that really stuck out was the point you made that silent prayer or centering prayer is very simply a lover's prayer, just I love you. And just sitting with that and saying that is very comforting. I thought the first part, the science part, this again is where science and faith are so tied in together. But if you understand the science of the brain and how that works, you can make that connection then to the heart. And that was very profound for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jane. Well, great. And again, I do apologize. I'm not sure what happened with the questions there, but I'm glad that you thought on your feet and were able to kind of introduce yourselves and have a fruitful discussion. Is there anyone else by this maybe raising your hand who would like to share? One question, Ricardo, that came through this chat was from Margaret, and it says, please explain Olay.
Yeah, I mean, that's terminology related to the bullfighting. So when somebody's going to attack you, you just go, ole, and ole, it's
like a bullfight.
Exactly. So don't get the emotion get you, because that's other people emotion that are throwing you energy to you. So although I'm not fair about the bullfighting of all the ecological consequence, but at least the gesture to ole, let it go, ole, don't face that emotion, because you're going to be engaged in a power struggle. So, and it's a way also to practice what they do in martial arts, the Wu Wei. So when you receive an energy to you, you just move and let the energy go by. So it's a mental attitude in front of other people, emotional expression. That's the ole basic concept.
Olay.
Ole. So you practice. You can do it with your body. Don't do it very visible, because the other people can get more angry and get back to you. So it's a kind of a mental imagination exercise. Use your right brain to do that.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for that explanation. And now we have Tammy has her hand raised. Tammy would like to share maybe some thoughts or questions.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was really nice. In our group, we did the same thing, getting to know our peers. But we all agreed, and we really appreciated, Ricardo, your gentleness and your holiness and your presentation of giving us hope and skills and tools in order for us to, for our own selves and for others. And we talked about, it's been a very blessed time, but also a very frustrating time all at the same time. So sorry. It's all right, honey. Anyway, so thank you very much. But we really did like the prayer time, quiet time, silent time, all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Great. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
Me. Ellen. I got a bad idea. Look at the floor.
That's all right.
If
Sorry, let me mute.
Thank you, Tammy.
Good.
The little ones, that's an example of these times, right? You gotta make do with all the different situations. So thank you for being with us, even with that, when you're looking after
Joseph, I don't
little
know if you
ones.
can.
Sorry, did someone have something else they'd like to add or share with the group?
Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. Hey, so it kind of reminds me of this whole thing right now with is nurturing the inner child. We have this inner child, that part of us that never grew up. And that's kind of where I think some of my core fears first started. So I have to love that inner child. So what I did is I printed up a picture of me when I was a little girl, and I have it out there so I can see it every day, so I can remind myself where I've been, what I've been through, and what I'm seeking forward for, and that's to have a good life the rest of my life, and to spread the word of God and not be ashamed or afraid to do that, and try to help others heal. And I love that book he put out there, Healing the Wounded Healer, or so the Wounded Healer, and like, that's me. I got to get that book. Anyway, just nurture your inner child to the best of your ability, because it's like that self-care, self-love. I never, when I was growing up, I didn't know I was supposed to love myself. I heard the commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself, but I never really heard the thyself part. I heard the love thy neighbor part. So I just put everybody before me. And now I'm mature and I can get to the end of things. So, I think that might be part of it, like unfinished business, not learning everything, getting distracted. And so I'm more focused now, and I'm trying to nurture that inner child and reach out to others. And I'm going to put my phone number on the screen next to my name if anybody wants to call me, because part of it is reaching out and helping each other. And that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Margaret, for that heartfelt sharing. Ricardo, do you have any follow-up or any?
Oh, yes. I mean, thank you for your sharing, Margaret. And never is too late to discover another piece of our mystery. Never is too late. And when I'm listening to you, I look ahead, a wonderful year for you when you are taking care of yourself, that your connection with your inner child, with your inner joy. So I look forward for the wonderful years ahead. So it's never too late to start in this process. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that the book that you mentioned, The Wounded Healer, will be a good benefit for you. So we celebrate the cup of your inner child, and we drink that cup with you. You're not alone.
Great. So I don't know, are there any other insights or anything anyone would like to share? Otherwise, we invite Ricardo to give us any kind of closing remarks and maybe close us in prayer whenever you are ready.
I know that our group had a question about what the 3 components of the brain were. It was emotional, intellectual, something like that.
Can you repeat the question, Nora, louder, because I didn't get it?
Yeah. So our group had the question about what were the 3 components of the brain. There was the emotional side, intellectual side, and we didn't recall the other one.
Okay, yeah. So basically, we have the neocortex with these functions, the left and the right, the more critical, analytical, and the more associative and intuitive. Then we have the limbic brain. In the middle is more related to the emotions, all the emotions. And then we have the reptilian or basic brain that has to do more with behavior, with the body, with the habits, routines, belief. It's what I call the sacred territory. And that's where the fight and flight response is normally. And we can realize that this is the territory of the conflict sometimes. So when we start to talk about my belief system, my God, your God, my routine, your routine, my rhythm, your rhythm, normally is where if we're not flexible enough, that's the territory of most of the fight in human nature and between countries sometimes. So having this in mind has given me the awareness that when I'm talking to somebody, I can feel, realize where we at, or we are more in the intellectual level, or we go into the emotional territory, or we're going deep in your belief, values, and habits and routines territory. And every territory requires kind of a special attitude to be close, to be empathetic, to be with the person. So that has been one of the most beneficial things, to be aware of this and trying to sense, because when we are in the more neocortical, I think that the waves are like this. When we are in the emotional, the waves are like this. And we are in the basic, the waves are like this, very heavy type of wave. So that has been a very good map for human relations and to be more aware of the possibilities of my instrument, my brain.
Gracias.
A la orden. And now you can make games. I mean, you can get into a room and say, let me practice with my left brain. Let's be critical here. What's missing? Pa, 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 pa. You make a list of things. And now go to the bus or the metro or to the supermarket or whatever. I'm going to be appreciative. What is the beautiful thing that I'm looking at? Let's see details that connect me with people. You can practice that and then be aware, how is your emotional system responding to when you use different systems? And in my experience, when I use my left brain system, my emotion system start to contract. I get to get detached of people, more differential relationship. But when I use my right brain, more associative, more appreciative, I start to feel close to people. I start to feel more empathy to people. So this is amazing when you start to play, and that's a way to put your inner child to play this type of thing, and you become more joyful, familiar with all this type of gifts that we have. Okay, so if there's no other further questions, I know that this talk has been taped, and also the slides are also, available. And so I just want to give thanks to you for your patience to sometimes listen in a language that is kind of a Spanglish sometimes. And thank you for being here. And as I mentioned before, you are a sign of hope for us and for me, and keep doing the things that you're doing. And no, we don't have to do extraordinary things. We just have to do the ordinary with extraordinary attitude. And that's it. Live your day with hope, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo, once again for your time this morning and your expertise. We are greatly appreciative for your ministry here in the Office for Family Life and Spirituality for the Diocese of San Diego. So, and then also thank you also very much to all of you that were able to join us today. As Ricardo mentioned, we will do a follow-up with pertinent notes and some information. Okay, so thank you all for being with us. Have a great rest of your week, and tomorrow's the Solemnity of the Annunciation, and then we move on into Holy Week. So a lot for us to prepare for and to celebrate in the coming week. So God bless you all and have a great afternoon.